All right, my name's Nikena Opara. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Ezzy Oswaha.
All right, today I'm going to be asking you about different concepts between projectile motion and gravitational force. So, to start off, can you just identify any types of ways that you would use projectile motion or gravitational force, like in your daily life?
Um, Projectile motion or gravitational force. I don't know, like when you drop something, like because of gravity, it falls.
Okay. What about gravitational force?
What?
So, what about gravitational force?
Isn't that gravitational force? Like when you drop something, gravity pulls it down.
Okay, like what about another example?
Um, like when we're standing, we stay on the ground because of gravity. Like we don't float.
Okay. So, the first question that I'm going to ask you is that if you're familiar with how gravity works, can you explain to me what happens to the velocity of an object when it is thrown up in the air? So, I'll repeat that for you. Since you're familiar with how gravity works, can you explain to me what happens to the velocity of an object when it's thrown up in the air?
Um, the velocity decreases as it goes higher up
Okay. So, why is that?
because gravity's pulling it down.
Okay. Since you know that gravity is a force, and you know that the ball slows down as it reaches the top. Is the velocity always constant throughout the whole trip of the ball?
No.
And why so? Can you explain why?
The velocity isn't constant because it decreases as it's so like when from the time it's leaving your hand to the time that it's up in the air. When it's leaving your hand at first, the velocity is quicker. When it's up in the air, the velocity is slower because gravity is pulling it down.
Okay. Um, since you understand that, um, what happens to the velocity at the top of its path?
Like it like once it reaches its peak and comes down,
Yeah, once it reaches the top, once it reaches the peak.
it's reached its peak, meaning that the velocity like reaches zero.
Okay, and that's because of
Gravity.
pulling down on it. Okay. All right. So you have an object with you right now. To demonstrate your mental model, you're gonna throw the ball up in the air or whatever you have, whatever object you have, 3 times to show that how once the object leaves your hand at first, um, the velocity is higher, but then once it reaches the top, it slows down, and then that's why it comes back down.
Yeah, okay, so I have like this sponge. Right, you throw it up in the air.
Yeah,
Like once
come
it
on.
goes up, when it's coming down, like I don't know. Last time I learned about this was calculus in high school, but like speed, I think like velocities like and oh my gosh, I don't know the words for it. Um, Derivative of speed,
Mm-hmm.
or like speed is a derivative of velocity. I don't remember which one, but speed comes first. So the sponge has like a faster speed, and velocity is like the amount that the speed is changing
Mm-hmm.
at a certain time. So like when the sponge is in my hand at first, and when it's first leaving the tips of my fingers, and it has the fastest speed and it has the fastest velocity because the speed is changing the most when it's first leaving my hand. But when it reaches the peak, of how high up it's going to go, the speed is not changing anymore at the peak. It's at zero, so that's why the velocity is at zero.
Yep.
And then it starts coming down.
Why do you think that the ball starts to slow down as it gets higher in the air?
Because
And why does it
the
get faster when it's coming down?
gravitational force is the strongest at the peak, so it like maxes out the um, the force that I threw it up.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
then
why does it? Why is it
it's coming
faster when it's coming down?
because it's the closest to the ground. I don't know, gravity's like pulling it most.
Okay. Is gravitational force always constant, or does it change?
Um, I don't know.
Okay, so since you said that when a ball is thrown up and gravity's pulling it down, um, is gravity always going to pull it down? Can gravity pull it up?
Gravity can't pull anything up, so it's going to be pulling it down to the ground.
So it's always going to be down. Do you remember? It's probably a long time ago. Remember physics when you worked with gravity? If there was a constant number for it, or if it was a constant force.
I think there's like a constant we use, but I don't know.
Okay, so you said that the velocity changes, correct? So you know the velocity is never going to be constant. Um, the gravity that's raining on the ball, like you said, is it going to become? Is it going to get faster as it comes down? Is it going to like
The
increase
velocity
the?
will be faster probably when it's coming down.
Okay, so um, so since you're kind of confused on whether gravity is a constant or changes, you have three diagrams that are with you.
Mm-hmm.
And diagram 1 is a block resting on a table. Diagram 2, person throwing a baseball into the air. And diagram 3, someone throwing a football into the air. So I'll show you guys the diagrams here. And then I'll
Mm-hmm.
also attach a picture for you guys at the end so you guys can see the diagrams too. So on this diagrams, I want you to draw the direction of where the gravitational force is going, acting on these objects.
It's pulling them all down.
Okay. So if gravity is always pulling something down, would it be considered a constant or a change?
Constant.
It would be constant. And gravity has a constant value of 9.8 meters per second squared.
Okay.
Okay. So for my next task, we are going to go over how gravity, how objects act, and how gravity acts on the object when it's falling from a plane or falling from something moving. So if something's moving and something falls out of it, does the object go straight down? Does the object go in a curve? Does the object go backwards? Like, what's your idea of it?
Of what?
What's your idea of when an object moves and the object falls from this, so like a plane, like it drops something? Does it go straight down? Go in a curve? Does it go backwards? Like, what is your idea of that?
When an object falls from a plane,
Yeah, a moving plane. The plane's moving and it drops like a box or something.
it's going to fall downward. It might be falling somewhat in the direction that the plane was falling, but for the most part, it's going to be going down, right down.
So you think it's gonna go straight down?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, uh, So you given your idea of what gravitational force is, it's a constant, it doesn't change. The constant is 9.8 meters per second squared. When something is moving in a plane, why do you think that it goes straight down?
Because it's moving. It's because it's dropped right out of the plane right there. Like I don't think it'll go like straight down. It might go somewhere in the directions the plane is going, but for the most part, it's like the gravitational force is going to be stronger than the direction that the plane is moving in. So it's going to be pulling the object down more than the force of the plane will be pulling the object in that direction.
Okay, yeah, you're partially there. So we talked about forces, and if the plane's moving, and gravity is also a force, so we know that gravity is acting on the object that's falling out the plane. Is there another force that's acting on the object that'll make it change directions?
Maybe the wind.
Well, usually in problems we neglect air resistance. So, but like, what about other factors that we talked about before? Like we just talked about, like,
Gravity, like this force plane.
okay, maybe not the forces, but what are the other things we were talking about that involve projectile motion?
Velocity
Hmm.
and speed.
So how do you think the velocity of the plane will affect the object that's moving?
Like the velocity of the object is going to decrease because it's leaving the plane, so the plane is no longer moving it.
Sorry, repeat that.
The velocity, so like when the object leaves the plane, gravity is going to be like pulling it down, so the velocity is going to be increasing as it's going downward.
Okay. So, like you said, the velocity is going to be going, and that velocity is going to give an extra boost from whatever object is going. So, the velocity of the object, um, do you think it's going to follow the velocity of the plane?
When it first is leaving the plane, but that's going to decrease over time.
Yeah, perfect. And all right, so there's a little short video that I want you to watch. You already have the base. The question I asked already made you answer it to have the full complete knowledge, but this video would just show you of how when something's dropped from a plane, how it looks. So you can just watch the video real quick. From 18 seconds to 24 seconds of the video.
You said 18 to 24.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what?
Okay, very good.
Are you playing it right now?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Oh,
Okay. So just to recap everything that we've been through. Was the video clear enough for you? Okay, so just to recap everything we've been through. When an object is being thrown up in the air, what do you think happens to the velocity? Actually, let me just start over with my first question that I asked you. If you're familiar with how gravity works, can you explain to me what happens to the velocity of an object when it's thrown up in the air?
The velocity decreases as the object rises up.
Okay. Anything else we talked about?
It's a peak point, and then it's on its way down. It's the velocity's increasing.
Okay. And then what about the gravity? How does gravity affect an object?
And this gravitational pull is always pulling the object closer to the ground. So when you throw it up, um, the gravitational pull is what's forcing the velocity to decrease as it's reaching its peak. And then when it's getting closer to the ground, it's increasing because the pull is strong.
Okay. Um, Gravitational force. So now you know that gravitational force is a constant, and it's not doesn't change. It's always the same value,
Mm-hmm.
always. Um, so three diagrams, just because something is resting. So if something is resting on a table or something's being thrown in the air, do they have the same gravitational pull?
Yeah,
Okay, and can you explain why you think this?
because it's always the same, like 9.8 meters squared.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Thank you for your time.